You can't always stop a sinking ship. Sometimes letting it run into the ground is the only way to get a new captain. One of you who attended my lives met with me privately and told me that they had consulted a mystic about their own career troubles, or frustrations, I should say. And they said a mystic wasn't normal for them, but they were just trying something new, and that was the advice that the mystic gave them, part of it. And they wanted to know what I thought about it. And I was like, honestly, I think that's great advice. I've never used or hired a mystic, but I talk on here all the time about the unwritten rule of compliance, which is it has become so ingrained in corporate culture, and not just corporate, white collar culture, professionalism, etc., that you do not disagree with power, that you do not speak up. And in my upcoming book on the unwritten rules of work, I talk about how this has not just ruined companies and lost billions of dollars, it has also resulted in the unaliving of hundreds of people. But the whistleblower, the person who speaks up, even with whistleblowing laws, is always the one who's punished. And it's maybe years later after a big tragedy that they might be venerated or have a good enough reputation to be referenced in that field again. It's really terrible. My advice to this person was, yes, sometimes you have to let the ship sink, but document along the way that you weren't the one who sunk it. Because when ships sink, that person, the captain, if they're not a good leader, which if the ship is sinking, they probably aren't, will look for a scapegoat. And especially if you are a person who is underrepresented in some way, you're first generation, you don't have a family safety net, you're a person of color, you're a woman, etc. Document, document, document. Have a paper trail showing that these were not your decisions. And speak up the first time. Try to prevent this. Speak up politely, respectfully, and calmly, even though your emotions are valid, right? You just can't have that backlash. Put it in warning, especially if it's like a dire situation where people's lives are on the line. But sometimes the ship does have to sink, and that's really hard if you are a person who's not even trying to be the captain, but you just don't want everyone on the ship to suffer. Or everyone where the ship is going to hit is going to suffer. And I feel this especially for like the older sisters who like, we don't need to be in charge, we're just trying to keep the ship afloat, right? I especially like this because I've always told people, I have 5 brothers, I run a tight shipwreck. You can't change people. You can show your expertise, you can disagree, but if you keep doing it, you will be thrown off the ship. And that's unfortunate. That is how shipwrecks start, by throwing the good folks off the ship.